Two people have died, one of them a 12-year-old girl, after a drive-by shooting outside a school in Katlehong on Gauteng's East Rand. It is understood that the shooting took place at the Izibuko Primary School on Wednesday afternoon. The schoolgirl died in hospital overnight, while the man who was collecting his grandchildren from the school died at the scene. The attack is said to be related to a taxi feud. The gunmen were believed to have been driving a white Toyota Quantum. To talk about this, Haas is an independent researcher and violence analyst. She joins us now on the line. A very good evening to you, Mr. Haas, and thank you so much for speaking to us. The Gauteng MEC saying the family has confirmed that taxi association rivalry is indeed involved in this, and this is not only the first but the third or fourth attempt on the family and its children. What are your thoughts about this, the fact that this is now spilled over into a school?
Good evening, everybody. It's absolutely disgraceful. The taxi industry is very badly managed and regulated. There should be an immediate clampdown on guns. I mean, the iPad is, or not iPad, Zero, and the minister has signed something for comment saying that security companies, who are the people who guard the taxis, should not be carrying automatic, semi-automatic weapons. I mean, what needs to be done urgently is a clampdown on the taxi industry, quite frankly, both in terms of proper regulation and in terms of a clampdown on weapons that they carry, because everybody is in danger: passengers, children, innocent bystanders.
And just how great is the proliferation of arms in the taxi industry? The Gauteng MEC is saying that the Gauteng Premier thinks it's such a bad problem that he's appointed a member of the judiciary to oversee a commission of inquiry.
Well, a commission of inquiry needs to look at the taxi industry countrywide, because a lot of this is long-distance taxi people. We have a particular problem in this province because obviously our long-distance people go to Gauteng, they would go further afield. So it's various taxi associations, whether or not they're based primarily in KwaZulu-Natal or Gauteng. I mean, they are guarded by security companies who may or may not be registered. There's not nearly enough checks on the guns those security industry people carry. In fact, I know that in a case in Durban, one of the guards has got a criminal record and he's still working as a guard with guns, and that's not the first one I've come across. So there's a huge problem with arms and the taxi industry, and it's up to the minister, I think, to step in and do something drastic about it, and do something about the regulation of the taxi routes, because that's also part of the problem.
So we'll get to the routes in just a moment, Mr. Haas, but there are some who've even suggested that there's a link between hidden arms caches in KwaZulu-Natal and the taxi industry. What are your thoughts?
Oh, look, it's possible. I mean, this province has been awash with weapons since the 80s, and it was worse in the 90s, and there's many caches of weapons unaccounted for, quite apart from the cache of weapons that came from Vlokplaas, which were kind of more weapons of war, but also guns. But there's caches of guns in this province, but who knows where they are now, because don't forget, especially with you know, even in cars, you can drive around with the guns and not be detected. So they may be moving around from here. They may be moving around from Gauteng back to here. We really don't know. I don't know what the police are doing about it.
So this contestation over routes, as you said, that it is between provinces. Is it because of a monopoly of one association over another or others, or is it simply that people are fighting over turf, trying to break that existing monopoly?
Look, it's a long-standing problem. This has been going on for years. And, I mean, there is this competition. I mean, in this province, and I'm not talking KZN, there's one particularly prominent taxi operator who, according to competitors, is trying to take over routes, because for example, in Durban, there's plans for a bus rapid transport system. So that's also fueling competition among taxi drivers because the routes for taxis will be cut down. And there are allegations that this one particularly prominent taxi operator, which is also a long-distance taxi operator, is trying to monopolize the routes. And, I mean, I should also point out, of course, that, most killings at the moment, political killings, for example, are done by hitmen, and the hitmen are generally associated with the taxi industry, which seems to be where you draw on not only the taxi industry, but the taxi industry's name crops up whenever people talk about political killings and hitmen.
Is this a war we can win?
Oh, it's a political will. That's all that's needed. I mean, it's about crime intelligence. And that, of course, has gone to the literally, suffered tremendous blow in the last decade or so because crime intelligence, as we all know, I think, was subverted for political ends. And, I mean, with the political will to clean up crime intelligence, to do something about detective services, because that's the other thing. We need more detectives. We also need, I think the police ballistics probably needs to be supplemented. I know in this province, that we could do with more police in the firearms unit, for example, ballistics testing. All that sort of evidence is crucial, but it just takes a political will. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know what to do about it.
Thank you.
There just seems to be a lack of political will.
Thank you so much for your time. Mary de Haas, independent researcher and violence analyst, will be back right after this.